Hello and welcome. During this unit we will use MaxMSP to develop a simple MIDI drum machine. I will also show you a couple of examples of MIDI and audio capable apps that can be developed with Max. Mac users need to make sure that they have their IAC driver enabled, as it was explained in the installation video. In Max, we connect several boxes with different functions to create a program. These boxes are called objects and have inlets and outlets from which you can drag wires to connect to one another. Some objects generate signals, others process the signals, and others receive them and produce sound. The window in which we create our programs is called a patcher, and it is like a blank canvas where you can sort of draw your program. Let's create a patcher for our drum machine. Open a new patcher by going to the File menu and clicking New Patcher. There are two states for a patcher, locked and unlocked. By default, when you create an empty patcher, it opens in unlocked state. This means you can put objects and edit the content, but you can't trigger the programs you created. On the other hand, in locked state, you can trigger the programs, but you can't edit or add new objects to your patcher. Your new patcher is unlocked. Put a new object. You can do this by either dragging the object icon in the objects bar on the top of the patcher or by pressing the letter N in the keyboard. The new object will appear and a text cursor will be blinking inside of it. Let's create a Metro object. Write Metro space 500 and press Enter or click outside of the object. The name of this object is Metro, and 500 is an argument that tells Metro to send a signal every 500 milliseconds. If you made a mistake, no problem. You can edit the object's name and arguments by double-clicking on it. Put a button or bank object. You can do this by either dragging the button icon from the objects menu or by pressing the letter B in your keyboard. A button can be used to send an impulse, signal or bang, or to visually display when a signal is passing. Connect the outlet of the Metro object to the inlet of the bang object by dragging a wire from the Metro object's left outlet to the bang's inlet. Let's put a toggle by either dragging the toggle icon from the bar or pressing the letter T in your keyboard. Connect the outlet of the toggle to the left inlet of the Metro object by clicking and dragging. Congratulations! You have created your first program. To see what it does, lock the patch by clicking on the lock icon in the left bottom corner or by pressing Ctrl+E in Windows or Command and E in Mac. Click on the toggle to see what happens. You should see the bang object blinking at a speed of 500 milliseconds. Let's try to get some sound out of our program. Create a new object and name it MakeNote. You will need to put a couple of arguments. Let's use 100 and 500. MakeNote transforms numbers into MIDI data. It will receive a number as input for pitch in MIDI numbers. The arguments are for velocity, which is the loudness of the sound in a range from 0 to 127, and duration in milliseconds. You can always check the help file to know more about each object and its arguments by right-clicking on it and selecting Open Help. Now let's create an object called NoteOut. NoteOut will send the MIDI data to the MIDI driver in your computer's sound card, which will produce sound. Connect the MakeNote object to the NoteOut. Drag a wire from the left outlet of the MakeNote object to the left inlet of the NoteOut. Now drag a wire from the right outlet of MakeNote to the center inlet of NoteOut. This last wire will send the data for velocity. We are almost ready. Create a message box by either dragging the message icon from the objects bar or by pressing the letter M in your keyboard. Write 60 on the message box. This will be our pitch, which in MIDI numbers represent the central C in the keyboard. Now connect the bang to the message box and the message box to the MakeNote object. Lock the patcher and now click on the toggle, and there you go. Let's add some sliders to control the loudness and speed. Unlock the patcher. Create a slider by either creating a new object and naming it slider or by pressing the letter S in your keyboard. By default, sliders output numbers from 0 to 127. Guess why? That is the range of most MIDI data. We will use this slider to change the argument for velocity in the make note. Connect the slider to the second inlet of make note. Let's add another slider to control the speed. Create a slider by pressing the letter S in your keyboard. Since 0 to 127 milliseconds is too fast for our project, we need to change the parameters for the slider. We will use the Inspector tab. There is a small icon with a letter I in your right bar. If you put the pointer on it, it should say Inspector. Click on it. A tab should open to the right of your patcher. Select the slider. A menu should populate the inspector. Scroll down and look for the range. It says 128. Change it to 2000. That will make up to 2 seconds of range. Change the output minimum, which is set to 0, to something more accord to what we will use. 50 is a fast enough beat. Now click outside the inspector. Your slider should now output numbers from 50 to 2049. To check this, let's use a number box. Create a number box by pressing the letter I in your keyboard. Now connect the slider to the number box. Lock the patcher and test the slider. Unlock the patcher again and connect the number box to the right inlet of your Metro object. Lock the patcher and set the slider to a number around 800. Click the toggle. Play around with the slider and see how it changes the speed of the beat. Some notes are going to sound weird at some speeds. That is because while the speed changes, the duration of your pitch is always 500 milliseconds. To fix that, let's equalize the duration to the speed of the beat in milliseconds. Unlock the patcher and connect the number box to the right inlet of the make note object. Now lock the patcher and try it again. We are using milliseconds now, but time in milliseconds is not a very familiar concept for musicians. We are used to thinking beats per minute, or BPM. We will use simple math to convert BPM into milliseconds so we can use BPM to control the Metro object. The duration of each beat in BPM is a minute divided by the number of beats. If 1 second has 1000 milliseconds, there are 60,000 milliseconds in 1 minute. So, to get the duration in milliseconds, we can divide 60,000 by our number of BPM. Let's try it. As you know, every time we want to edit our patcher, we need it to be unlocked. So I will consider that an assumption from now on. Create a number box. Create a new object and type expr space 60,000 space slash space money I1. This is an expression object and it is used to express a mathematical operation. There are simpler math objects like plus or divided by, but they will add or divide the number they received by the argument you set. In this case, we want to do the opposite. We want to divide an argument by the data we are sending, so we need the expression object. The symbol money I1 is not a random symbol. Money stands for input. I stands for integer, so that it is established that the data is an integer number. And 1 stands for the inlet number that will receive the data. Create another number box. Connect one number box to the inlet of the expression object and the outlet of the expression object to the other number box. Lock the patcher and drag the numbers in the top number box. Try to get 120. The box below the expression object should output 500. That means that 120 BPM are the same as a beat of 500 milliseconds per beat, or a beat of half a second, which means that there are 2 beats in 1 second and therefore 120 beats in 1 minute. If you change the number to 60, the output should be 1000. So now you have a program that converts BPM into milliseconds. Delete the number box we are using as output and connect our expression object to the number box we have to control the metro speed. Delete the wire that is connecting the slider to that box and reconnect it to the number box on top of the expression object. We won't need a beat as fast as 2049 BPM, so let's change the parameters for the slider. Select the slider and go to the inspector. Let's put a more reasonable range of 500 and a minimum output of 30. Now you can lock the patcher and try it. It is a good practice to save your progress often, but if you still haven't saved anything, now it's a good time. Go to the File menu and select Save As. Now you can pick a folder and choose a name for your file. Pick a location that will make your file easy to access, since we will continue using it. In the next video, we will keep working on our drum machine, adding a subdivision feature, a step sequencer feature, and percussion sounds. Thanks for watching!